What's going on, guys? Pizzo, Campbell, Diamond League Series #1 in the books. We're going to talk 200-meter men. We're going to talk 100-meter women and sponsorship. Athletics North starts now. Morgan!
Asher Smith gets out smartly. Sharika Jackson matches her. Asher Smith with maybe half a metre at the moment. It's these two just pulling away, but Jackson and Richardson. Here comes Richardson. It's going to be tight. Richardson's going to get it. New meeting record. 10.77. The wind is legal. I said watch out for her. For those who went, yeah, that was a 4 metre following wind. Yeah, Sha'carri, you did it.
Women stealing the show in Doha, and I was watching that race with this certified track nerd right here, Morgan Campbell, and you said, wow, yes. We knew it was a stacked field, but what a finish.
First thing, I'm going to quibble with you a little bit.
Okay.
In the context of Canada, we could maybe say women are stealing the show because the Canadians show up to watch Andre De Grasse and Aaron Brown. But in the broader sports world, Fred Kerley was trying to steal the show from the women because, listen, say what you want about Sha'carri Richardson, what you think she's done, what you think she's capable of, the way you think she has fallen short of expectations. But she attracts eyeballs. I've said this before. Her name, her first name alone is instant SEO.
Yeah.
She puts bums in seats. So it was her show for other people to try to steal, and I don't think they did. 1076, this early in the season. Again, we discussed this last week about Sha'carri Richardson. She does tend to peak early in the season. But what's impressive here is that she did this against a certifiably world-class field. You had world champions in that field, and she treated that field like they were, a group of high school students. So this was a masterfully executed race from Sha'carri Richardson.
Okay, so that's the track nerd in you, but I got to ask you, you alluded to it there for a second. She's kind of taken on a villain role.
Yes.
If you follow her on social media, if you see her interviews, she's always in the news, good and bad. And I'm wondering, are half the track fans saying, that was amazing, look at that time, this is great, and the other half saying, anybody but her?
I will put it to you like this, because you're a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
And so she's a little bit like...
She's a heel? Are you telling me she's a heel?
No. At first I thought she was a heel, but she's more like, and you'll get this, Stone Cold Steve Austin, in the sense that in the 1990s when Stone Cold Steve Austin came to WWE, which is WWF back then, but you get my point. He was supposed to be an out-and-out heel.
Yep.
Right?
But they loved him.
But people fell in love with him. So here's Sha'carri, flashy, fabulous, fashionable, talking a lot of trash. And there are a lot of people that are turned off by that, but there are a huge group of people that love that, that love it. And like young kids, Sha'carri, as much as she has played the heel role, she is also the person that does the personal appearances before each track and signing autographs for the little kids. So she, and again, as much as a lot of people in the track community try to deride her for what they think she hasn't accomplished and the ways they think she has fallen short, she has done as much at a grassroots level to promote this sport to the next generation of fans as anybody.
And that's the bottom line, because Morgan Campbell said so. All right, you talked about the men earlier. We had the men's 200, couple Canadians in the group. We talked about Fred Kerley, but let's start with the Canadians. And we're going to start with Aaron Brown, because second last week in Botswana, ends up with the time of 2020, good for third place, first Diamond League, event of the season. So far, so good for Brown.
Yeah, well, Aaron Brown, again, we've discussed this before. His superpower is consistency. Like when you get to the end of the season, world final, Olympic final, 100 and 200, he's the one guy that's been able to do both of those and make that happen in each of the last world finals going back 5 or 6 years. And so you look at his individual results, like his peak may not be as high as Fred Kerley's peak or as high as Andre De Grasse's peak, but the consistency is there. And so you're seeing him run fast times like fairly early in the season, and other people might get sharper later, but he's always going to be around.
Got to ask you about Andre. I mean, people love to lose their minds when Andre struggles at the beginning of every season, but it seems to just be his MO, finishing 6th in this one. Again, 7th last week in Botswana. Should people worry, or is this Andre being Andre?
Worry is overrated. And again, we forget that it's a season, and just like any other team sport, teams might start poorly, but it is a season, and it takes sometimes some performers longer to get sharp than it does for other people. And then we will see. So I'm not going to try to project too much from every single Andre De Grasse performance right now.
quickly before we move on, Fred Kerley, 1992, crazy time for a first time in League event.
Here's the thing about Fred Kerley. It's not just that he won that race, it's the way he did it. And again, we talk about like professionals making other professionals look like high schoolers. Like Fred Kerley is the world champion in the 100 meters, but he came down from the 400 meters, right? This is a guy that has run 43.6 in the 400. And looking at it on the surface, you would think the 200 would be, the perfect event for him when you just talk about the attributes, the speed of the 100, the strength and endurance of the 400. But there's a technique to running the 200 that like Fred Kerley does not really display. Like Fred Kerley does what he can on the curve, and then when he gets to the straightaway, he turns it on and reels people in, which even against world-class fields and against the clock isn't necessarily the best way to do it. He made it work today, but what's exciting is there's still a lot about running the 200 meters that Fred Kerley is clearly working on, and once he masters that technique and masters kind of that race modeling, it's going to be dangerous.
One more thing before we go. I want to ask you about some hurdles and Alicia Johnson.
Yes.
We're watching this event, like I said, together, and right away you pointed out she still doesn't have a shoe sponsor,
yes.
which to me is mind-boggling, and she goes out with a performance like she did today. This is something you're watching this year, isn't
So Jasmine Camacho Quinn wins that race.
Yeah.
Nia Ali, who's Andre De Grasse's partner, is in third place. They're both Nike athletes. In between the two of them is Alicia Johnson wearing a fabulous, fashionable kit that, I guess she put together herself because she is an independent racer. She does not have
No logos.
an apparel sponsor.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what it illustrates is how, savage and unforgiving the business of track and field can be. Because for these competitors, the apparel deal is like the closest thing they have to a full-time employer. Like they train full-time, but the steady paycheck comes from the apparel deal. Her other problem is that if you sign for with an apparel sponsor now, they can sign you relatively cheap because you're going into World Championship. If you sign after World Championship, the price might go up. So she might be holding out.
betting on herself.
Betting on herself,
Yeah.
trying to land on the podium in World Championships the year before an Olympics, and bargain from there.
Well, Doha is done. Morocco is next. And when that's done, we'll be back to break all of that down for you. This has been Athletics North. Thanks for watching. Okay, that's the end of the video, but you're not at the finish line yet because we've got plenty more content. And if you want to see it, subscribe to the channel and just look at all the videos you can watch. Morgan and myself talking track.